Now, the latest tariff policy announced by US President Donald Trump is set to reshape the trade landscape between the United States, China, Africa, the UK, and the European Union. The tariff was announced on Wednesday, or a day that Donald Trump tagged Liberation Day, and is going to target over 180 countries, including 50 African countries. It introduces a baseline 10% tariff on all imports from countries without specific trade agreement with the United States. Now, the move, analysts say, is part of Trump's strategy to counter foreign tariff, trade barriers, and currency manipulation, which administration has argued has put the U.S. government as a disadvantage in terms of world trade and economics. Now, the core idea behind the trade is the diplomatic principle of reciprocity, that countries that impose high tariff on U.S. goods would face similar tariff on their exports to the United States. Now, for countries like Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya, which have long-standing trade agreements with the U.S., it could signal a shift in existing economic ties with them. As I mentioned, Trump branded the introduction of this tariff as Liberation Day, positioning it as a necessary action to end what it perceives as unfair trade practices. I said it's going to affect a number of African countries. For instance, South Africa, if you remember, they've had a bit of a diplomatic spat to Donald Trump from Elon Musk outrage about the land policy of the ANC government to other issues in the country. So South Africa is going to be has been hit by 30% tariff. Madagascar 47%. Before now, South Africa charges US 60%. So Trump has reciprocated by imposing 30%. Madagascar 47%. Tunisia 28%. Egypt 10%. Cote d'Ivoire 21%. Nigeria 14%. Botswana 37%. Morocco 10%. Algeria 30%. Ghana 10%. Angola 32%. China has labeled this move as a unilateral bullying by the United States, promising retaliatory measures against the U.S. We've also seen the reaction from the European Union. We've seen the reaction from the UK government as well. A lot of people have labeled this as, a brewing global trade war incited by Trump's protectionist agenda. But let's first take a listen to various reactions that have trailed this tariff announcement by the U.S. president.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. So, if you look at that, China, first row, the United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple, can't get any simpler than that. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating.
We have to understand that just as with defence and security, so too for the economy and trade. We are living in a changing world, entering a new era. We must rise to this challenge, and that is why I've instructed my team to move further and faster on the changes I believe will make our economy stronger and more resilient. Because this government will do everything necessary to defend the UK's national interests.
President Trump's announcement of universal tariffs on the whole world, including the European Union, is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism. The consequences will be dire for millions of people around the globe, also for the most vulnerable countries, which are now subject to some of the highest US tariffs.
Well, that's the voice of Ursula von der Leyen, the leader of the European Union. Also heard the voice of Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, and Donald Trump himself when he was announcing the tariff. So we'll kickstart the conversation with that this morning. But first, let me just quickly welcome our guests before we bring in our analysts to quickly dissect, and then we'll go back to our guest on the podium today. Let me welcome our guest. Inibe Effiong is a legal practitioner and human rights activist. Inibe, great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Thanks for
morning.
having me.
Good morning. Good to have you. Please stay on the line. We'll get back to you in a moment as we quickly analyze Donald Trump's move. Let me welcome Prof as well. As you know, this is a panel discussion, so we have two panelists joining us. Professor Yemi Ayede, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan, and Barrister Yemi Ogunlola joins us as well. So, Prof, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure to be in the podium this quiet morning. And I welcome our guest, Barrister Enebe, and then, of course, my colleague here, who is a learned colleague to Barrister Enebe. Yomi Ogunlola.
Yes, morning, Mr. Ogunlola, morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, my blood brother, the noble professor. It's so good to have you. And of course, Inibe, it's good to have you again. Today, I want to believe will be explosive because so many things, or should I say, water, has gone under the bridge.
Yeah.
And Tom, nice to be with you too.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much.
Nigeria.
Good morning. Okay, so let me quickly get Prof's perspective regarding this. China labeled Trump's move as unilateral bullying. Some analysts are even saying that we should be preparing for a major global trade war. People are asking what's the role of the World Trade Organization led by 𝐒𝐲𝐶𝐃 𝐈𝐒 in all of this, the impact on African countries. There's even, an AGO agreement between the US and African countries since 1999, and this deal throws everything away. There's also an argument that the diplomatic and economic war being started by Trump is going to take more than 4 years for his successor to undo the effect of all of this. So first, let me ask you, do you feel like with Trump's protectionist agenda, we might be heading to a Cold War-like international system, if I can put it that way, Prof?
Yeah, thank you very much. Remember that the Cold War did not come with a trade war. And it is within the context of the Cold War that the World Trade Organization was solidified and institutionalized. And so it's a different kind of world that we are in, and it is not really very sure very clear whether the United States itself really stands to benefit. Remember also that the dollarization of global economic transaction puts the U.S. in a peculiarly advantaged position for several decades, in fact, going to almost a century now. And it's amazing that Trump did not even talk about that or appreciate that. Then two, it's also interesting that we have not heard the word from 𝐂𝐐𝐿 and all these things have started. Even when she was interviewed, I think it is at the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
And she said, there will be no point being confrontational on the matter. It's just going to see what will unfold. Because at that time, Trump was just talking about Canada and Mexico and was waxing eloquent, talking about all this tariff that is going to impose. Now, I think that it's an interesting world, and happily it is not a world in which America is on top of everything. If this was, say, 2000 or even 2010, we'll be talking in a different mode. But right now, whether in terms of technology and other things, the world is effectively a multipolar world. And in terms of the economy, China has very strong capacity in terms of technology, in terms of production, in terms of capital, and so people are looking forward to a situation where it's going to be tit for tat. And interestingly also, China has also gone to the World Trade Organization. It has sued the United States. So we are looking forward towards a very interesting times where we are going to see the relative muscles of countries. Because in terms of certain respects, it seems China is the defector of the future in some technological breakthrough. And as we know, China remains the factory of the world. And the good thing about the Chinese economy is really that the country has a very strong hold on its economy. It's able to turn things around within very short period. These are things that even the United States will not be able to do because it's a democracy. For us in Nigeria, I'm not sure that we are very active in the AGOA framework. Because we really have not engaged it in a manner that they've done, for instance, in Ghana. And then we don't have a very dynamic sector like they have. And our agricultural export still remains those cash crops like cocoa, sorghum, cashew nut, and so some of these things are not necessarily directed to the American market. Some of our things go to the Netherlands, go to other European countries. So we may not be as affected, for instance, like South Africa. The mobile industry, I understand 50% of it go to the United States, others to Europe. And then, of course, it is taking a very strong stand regarding the situation in Gaza, and they have this diplomatic role that has been going on in recent time. Ghana, of course, we feel it. They have a stronger hold on AGOA, and they've been engaging the United States in a series of negotiations. But of course, they recognize that they are a minor power. So I think that given the limited dynamism of our manufacturing sector and the also limited integration into the American market, it may not affect us as much as it will affect a country like South Africa. But nonetheless, the world is changing. As America is making its move, happily other countries are also able to make their move. You can see Japan already talking with China, talking with South Korea. So there's a whole reconfiguration of the system. The Europeans are also making frantic efforts, to ward off the consequences. They would see if they can negotiate, but they're also planning measures that will act as buffer for their own economy. So I don't think it's a one-way traffic. In terms of whether the policies will be undone, the record shows that even the one he did in the first 4-10 period most of them were not undone by Biden. In fact, if anything at all, they were sustained because Biden also thought that some of them are for the benefit of the United States. Right. So let the United States bring it.
Certainly. Okay, let me quickly take a break, and when we get back, Barrister will conclude this conversation, then we'll go to our guest. My question for Barrister is, can we really blame Trump in all of it? Because he says it's reciprocity. You would do it to us, we do it to you as well. And to be fair, some of these countries already had, a certain tariff on U.S. goods in their respective goods. So what he did was create a baseline and then retaliate based on, how much U.S. goods are being charged in those respective countries. All of that and more after this break. Stay with us on the podium. We'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Tifa bá wọlé tọ́ ní fàáfàá làájìfà. 32 FM, the happiness station, is ready to spread happiness again. Yes, ke? Time don reach for us to make our listeners smile again. Oh, are you ready? Ṣé ti dúró dédé? Àwùfù bẹ̀rẹ̀kẹ̀tẹ̀ don land like traffic light. If true data is life, na if you say recharge card go come you wait you. If your finger is fast and you are feeling lucky on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, then keep your dial locked on 32 FM 949 fẹ̀yẹ́. Nítorí òjò recharge card yóò máa rọ̀ ní gbogbo ọjọ́ Ìṣẹ́gun, Ọjọ́rú àti Ọjọ́bọ̀. Ìyẹn ní pé every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, time go reach you. Àwùfù bẹ̀rẹ̀kẹ̀tẹ̀ go dey ṣẹlẹ̀ on top 32 FM 94.9 by 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m. Congo reach 7 p.m. Lẹ́yìn tó túmọ̀ sí pé láago 8 òwúrọ̀, aago 11 àárọ̀, aago 1 ọ̀sán, aago 5 àti aago 7 àṣálẹ́. If it be red network, if it be green network, it still fit be yellow network. Any which way na way, your own na to stay alert and stay active on 32 FM. Ló bá tán, má gọ̀ọ̀kì ẹ̀ la fàwọ́dá.
You want like Vinny Junior? Èmi tí mo phenomenal gangan.
kò bá jẹ́ 24 29 tàbí 32 ṣáà ti fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú wa lórí gbogbo ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ kàn tẹ 32FM949 fẹ̀yìn ẹ̀.
In the mind of the one who needs to sell a landed property, a lot is going on.
How do I get a buyer? How do I get the best deal? Can I trust these agents? Should I advertise on the radio or social media? Where do I even start? Who can help me? How do I avoid scammers? Should I even sell this property? No, I need this money within 7 days.
Hey, slow down. Do you have a landed property, whether land or building, in a choice location, and you're looking forward to selling it quickly? 32FM, the Laughter Station, in partnership with Soft Sands Property, is bringing an offer to you. Yes, one you cannot resist. If you have a house or land in a decent neighborhood with appropriate titles and you want it advertised on 32FM 94.9 Ibadan free for quick sales, you can call or send a message to this number:
091 646 15000 and 091 555 0055.
Also, you can visit www.softsandsproperty.com to express your interest. Terms and conditions apply.
Soft Sands, created to house the world.
kápẹ́ dèlò èdè fèdè yangan àtàwọn àkànlò èdè ayàwòrán tó perégedé fìrómọ̀rí sí fènìyàn pohùn àtàwọn ìṣàmúlò ẹwà èdè Yorùbá tó jíire lẹ́yìn máa pápádé lórí ètò Yorùbá Dùn ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ajé láago 7 àṣálẹ́ ṣaago 8 kọjá 20 ìṣẹ́jú pẹ̀lú ìtúpalẹ̀ àwọn lítírésì eré oníṣe tó kún fọ́gbọ́n ìmọ̀ òye àṣà ìrírí lọ́pọ̀ yanturu tá a fi gbélé ayé tó kọ́mọ lẹ́kọ̀ọ́. ìkànnì 32FM 94.9 lẹ́wọ̀n ti máa gbọ́ ètò Yorùbá Dùn pẹ̀lú Olúbímpé Fátóyè àtọ́kùn ètò a kì í fowó ròyìn kó má lè kọ́ni lójú Olúgbénga Ìdòwú ó yá gbé sókè. ọjọ́ 17 tí wọ́n ṣe ìgbéyàwó ni olóyè pé ilé ọmọ Dèbó jáde ó sì gé ó fi aṣọ funfun wé. boko jìnnà ìlà kì í kó ìpàdé tó dọjú ajé ọ̀sẹ̀ yìí nìkànnì 32FM 94.9 Yorùbá Dùn Yorùbá rẹwà Yorùbá wò mí jọjọ.
32FM 94.9. Feel better about your life.
32FM 94.9, the antidote to depression.
Welcome back. The Podium on 32FM 94.9. Let's quickly wrap up the conversation with Trump and then we'll go to our guest. So, Barrister Ogunlola, quickly, I wanted to chime in on the conversation as well. I was asking you if, to be fair, we cannot blame Trump for this because it says it's reciprocity at the end of the day. You do it to us, we do it to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Toba. Reciprocity is an acceptable principle in international law. And the reciprocal tariffs against over 180 countries by the Trump administration is understandable when one considers that what the American government has done is to impose a tariff that is half of what other countries are charging the USA. But the global impact is the concern of many. I was asking a few questions. Not that America has ever respected the principles underlying the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. But with what America has done, I am asking a few questions. Is Trump redefining the principles underlying the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff? 2, is President Trump changing the rules of the World Trade Organization? 3, is President Trump unglobalizing the world? These are questions that some of us are asking, because you want to ask yourself, what becomes of the United Nations? I hope it's not going the way of the League of Nations. And I also hope that this is not preparatory to World War III. God forbid that.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. So let's go back to our guest again. Inibe Effiong is a legal practitioner and human rights activist. Inibe, thank you for joining us once again. on the podium. Let me just start with the drama we've been seeing in the National Assembly involving the Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti and the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. We saw the altercation at the committee hearing some days ago. We saw some of the allegations and counter-allegations, and recently Natasha herself said that she'll be presenting her evidence against Akpabio at the right time. What have you made of all of these issues brewing between both parties in the last couple of weeks, within the National Assembly, and what does it say about the highest legislative body in the Senate in Nigeria?
Thank you, and good morning to the distinguished panelists, my colleague and the professor. I think the Natasha situation for some of us is not surprising. The persons who are behind our travels are not people who have a lot of regards for democratic principles. Assuming that Natasha even contravened the standing orders of this.
Anybody, your line is breaking. Can you hear me?
Senate or the internal regulations. Hello, confirm you can.
Yes, your line was breaking earlier. So can you hear me now? Oh, it appears the connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. So I lost connection with you at the point where you said, assuming she broke the internal rules of the Senate. That's where I lost connection with you. Hello?
Yes, well, I can hear you clearly from here. I can hear you.
Right. Okay. Yes. Oh, I think we lost connection with Inibaya there. We hope to reconnect with him to continue the conversation. Let me go to Prof now. Prof, the drama is unending between both parties. We've seen the attempt to recall her. We've seen how INEC has said that that recall process has not met the constitutional provision. It looks like there's no end in sight to all of this, Prof.
Yeah, there's usually no end sight to injustice, but eventually it will be overrun by justice.
Right.
Because when you look at the
beginning of... Prof, sir, hold that thought, sir. I think Inibay is back. Inibay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, it's better. It's better. Yes. I lost connection with you when you talked about assuming she broke the... Yes. Right, go ahead.
I heard you.
Yes.
I was hearing you from the end. So I'm making the point that, let's even assume for a second that she contravened.
I think the network is bad.
I think your connection is unstable. Anybody?
Well, I don't know why you can't hear me. I hear you clearly from here.
Okay, it's just breaking. That's a problem.
I've tried to switch.
Okay, let's try it now. Let's try it now.
Yeah, so I'm saying that assuming she contravened the...
The studio is taking over.
Oh, okay. It looks like his connection is unstable. Let's hope that he's able to get that sorted. We can continue the conversation. So, Prof, you were making a point about there's usually no end in sight to injustice.
Yes, and if people don't stand up to fight it, I think
Hello, Prof.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yes.
think there's interference from the studio, please.
Okay.
As I was saying, if people don't rise up against it, they are going to make her an experimental goat to silence anyone who will rise up against them in the way they have currently configured the National Assembly. It seems that they want to turn it into a military barrack where the of Senate is like the class prefect who can declare somebody a messmaker, and that person will be subject to punishment. It is very undemocratic, and it is a good thing that Natasha has the capacity to defend herself, at least to an extent, because the suspension itself is questionable. It is not acceptable. Still went ahead. The previous court decision on suspension, you wonder whether these guys in the Senate have regard for the rule of law, and for an institution of lawmaking, it is tragic. So I'm happy that she has both the means and the kind of support and strategic capacity, to undermine some of the effort to silence her. Eventually, she was able to hold the homecoming ceremony. They entered Kogi State through an helicopter and were able to receive the welcome that they deserve. I mean, look at what has also gone on with the Kogi State government. From even enjoying a public rally or public welcome, and she had to look for an alternative means to enter the state. So it's a very tragic situation, and they are showing Nigerians and the world that there's scarcity of democratic values within the government system, and we really need to do something about that. We should not leave this to Natasha alone. I think we are happy that in spite of the challenges they have faced, women have rallied around her. People like 𝐒𝐈𝐒, regardless of that altercation between him and that senator, it's still good that they support Natasha. And the people of Kogi State also demonstrated that they're behind her as their senator.
Right. I think Inibe, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
All right. Go ahead. You can continue your line of thought now. Hopefully the network permits us to have a seamless conversation.
The challenge with the Natasha case is dictatorship. We have a leadership in the National Assembly that is not accountable. We have a leadership that does not believe in principles of democracy, because in Parliament, really, members are ordinarily allowed to express themselves. Unlike the executive arm of government, where you have the president as the chief executive, and then he appoints ministers. That is not the case in Parliament. In Parliament, all the members are equally elected. Like we said, the Senate President and the Deputy Senate President. The Senate President is only the primus inter pares. It's only the first among equals. They are all elected. Nobody is voted by Nigerians as Senate President. A president becomes the Senate President because he's a senator. So what that implies is that you accord mutual respect to your colleagues and listen to them. So if somebody raises a point of order or stands up to protest an injustice as the person claims has been meted on him or her, you don't react to that by silencing the person and even go to the extent of saying you are suspending the person for 6 months. And for me, that is how I choose to look at this. The legal arguments, aside, which I believe still favors Natasha in the matter. Now, I don't agree with the whole charade of suspending a lawmaker, especially for that prolonged period, because for 6 months, you are invariably saying that our constituents will not have representation. You are saying that our oath of office has been suspended, and they even went further to say she should not refer to herself as a senator, which is very laughable. And then they even said they are withdrawing our security, our legislative aids should not be paid. These are not actions that are taken because somebody has violated internal rules. These are actions that can only be attributed to malice. So I condemn the way she has been treated, and it is sad that we have to tolerate this. And I hope that we'll have an expeditious resolution of this matter, by the court, because in the past, when other lawmakers were suspended, Senator Lindume, Omo Agege, and many others in the past, including state lawmakers, the courts have been consistent in declaring those suspensions illegal. So I do not see how this is going to be different. And in any event, I don't see why this matter should have even gotten to this point. But again, the Senate president happens to be a former governor of my state, someone about my own past and issues with because of his opposition to any form of dissent. So this whole embarrassment has to end. She has to be restored to her senatorial position, and to see that the whole thing is witch hunt. They tried to even stop her from holding a rally in her state. The governor said, "Oh no, there should be no public gathering." The local government said they were declaring a curfew. All these desperate gimmicks have been orchestrated to sabotage her, our political standing and to frustrate her from representing her constituents. And that is very sad.
Right. And you said that, this matter should not have dragged for this long. And I remember before the courts ruled that both of them should not grant an interview for now. She had an interview about 3 days ago, thereabout, and she said that she will soon present evidence of sexual harassment against the Senate president. There are those who have said that if she had presented the evidence, all of this would not have dragged on for this long, would have some kind of clarity as to where this case is headed. What are you expecting to see from the senator? Because some legal practitioners have also said that they want her to present evidence. Yes.
No, that I don't share that sentiment. The issue here is not a question. It is not a question of evidence. They are not targeting her because she has not presented evidence. Even if Natasha shows Nigerians a video of her being harassed by the Senate president, it's not going to change anything significantly. But as I said, the underlying factor here is that we have a political system in our country that is repressive. So those who are asking for evidence are only seeking to, and let's even assume they really legitimately wanted to listen to a claim of sexual harassment. Why was a fair opportunity not given for those claims to be investigated? Okay, they did not give her a fair opportunity. The Senate Ethics Committee had already shown bias in the matter, and you're already suspending somebody for 6 months, and you are now asking the person to come back, to face the same committee that the same people who orchestrated her suspension. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I think this whole thing has to end, and they should allow her to return to her position. I don't see any dynamic that will change. There is no evidence that Natasha will present that will alter, the views of her adversaries. As I said, these actions are malicious. But I agree that if there is evidence at some point, there may be need for that to come out, if not for anything, to further strengthen other people who are in similar positions, who are being repressed and not afforded opportunity to ventilate their grievances. On the side of law, I have argued that you cannot suspend a lawmaker and deprive the constituents of representation, and even the Senate standing order does not allow for some suspension for 6 months. A lawmaker is elected for a term of 4 years. If you take out 6 months from 4 years, that is a significant chunk of the tenure of the person. For what? Did she kill somebody in the National Assembly? And to see how dubious the whole thing is, they even tried they made a fraudulent effort to recall her, which is unprecedented. No lawmaker has been recalled in Nigeria since 1999. And that is because the conditional process of recall makes it almost impossible to achieve that. And they had to orchestrate, a very devious recall process that has now failed. And we are still hearing that those behind the scheme are still hell-bent on pursuing it. So first, they want to have a recall, and then they don't want her to come and organize with our constituents. They don't want her to have a rally with her supporters, contrary to the provisions of the Electoral Act, contrary to the provisions of the Police Act and the 1999 Constitution that allows freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. And then you are saying you are suspending her for 6 months. So is it until they take her life that they will be contented? These are just very, very wicked and outrageous actions that are being taken. For what? Natasha, what is her offense in the grand scheme of things? What is the offense of Natasha?
Right. Inibehe, as you said, the recall process in the law is a very complicated one. I remember they tried it, I think, with Dino Elai. It didn't work. And as you said correctly, since 1999, we've not seen a lawmaker that has been recalled. Why do you think the process has been so has been made so complicated the way it is. Some say, it shouldn't be this hard because people put this representative. That's just digressing a little from the Natasha case, speaking about it generally, that people elected this representative into office. Therefore, they should have, some kind of power to recall the person if the person is not representing them well, because we're in a representative democracy. So making it so hard makes it almost impossible to hold the lawmaker accountable, and then the person goes on to serve 4 years, 8 years. Some of them have even been there more than that, for more than that period, as long as they can manipulate or find ways to win elections. So should this process be more relaxed, or is good as the way it is, because it might be taken advantage of by political adversaries? What's your opinion?
It is a two-edged sword. Ordinarily, lawmakers should be subject to recall. But if you look at even globally, in the countries where recall is allowed, it is not easy. It is not common to see that being done successfully. Now, the constitution says for INEC to entertain the recall petition, at least 50, not less than half of the registered voters. And you see, that is part of the problem. Okay, the law says registered voters in the constituency, not less than 50%, must sign off on the recall petition. INEC will then proceed to verify the signatures. Okay, and when it is verified, and then INEC would now have a referendum, which is the form of an election in that constituency to either accept, confirm, or reject the recall petition. So if you are relying on voters register, first, is the register itself credible? How many people on the register are alive? How many people on that register are alive? How many are still residing in the constituency? Look at the votes declared for the senatorial candidates that contested in Kogi Central from Natasha and others. How many people voted in 2023 in that constituency? If you look at the number of votes, the number of accredited voters, you see that it is significantly lesser than the possibly bogus number on the voters register. So when they claimed they had secured over 200,000 signatures, Nigerians knew that it was fraudulent. They were lying. That is simply impossible to do. Where did they get the 200 people from? From where did they get 200 signatures? Over 200,000 signatures. So the process is really cumbersome. Should there be a reform? Should there be changes? Possibly. Okay, possibly. Maybe it should be possible. It should make it easier to recall, but that can also be weaponized, which is why I am saying that it's a two-edged sword.
Right. Okay, let's go to Barrister now. Barrister Agunola, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now, this morbid affair is, in my view, a manifestation of what I have chosen to call truth phobia by the current leadership of the country. Even more worrisome is the reality of the monstrosity of what opposition views are having to contend with in the present day Nigeria. If the revelations by Senator Abba is anything to go by, Nigerians have a reason to be fearful. Now, according to Senator Abba, Akpabio invited him to his house, and he disagreed with the point raised by Akpabio, especially the one inviting him to join Akpabio's camp. And Akpabio told him, according to Senator Abba, that 5 senators were going, and lo and behold, the elections of 5 senators was truncated by the judiciary. My fear is this, and as it is evident in what is going on in the Natasha case, it appears that all the institutions of state are at the disposal of those in power to further their personal, whatever you want to call it. Isn't that enough to create tension in the land? Remember, former President Goodluck Jonathan admonished the three arms of government on abuse of office, abuse of privilege, abuse of power. With the institutions of state at the ready disposal, of these so-called rulers, is that not enough to create panic in society?
Oh, it appears Inibe is not with us. I don't know. I think his connection has gone off again. I think so. Barrister, Inibe is not with us. Yes. I'd like you to continue along that trajectory. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Look at what is happening in America. The president wakes up, he comes up with an executive order, but there is a judiciary that comes up and says, no, you cannot do this. And society is kept together. But what appears to be happening here, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary appear to be so fused that they are working together, or so it seems. And they use all the instrumentalities of state to attack their perceived enemies.
But it appears Inibe is back. Inibe, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes,
Sorry,
okay.
The network is poor.
All right. Barrister Ogunlola, please, maybe you can relay your question again.
Okay. Inibe,
yes,
I was wondering, with this morbid affair, it appears it is a manifestation of what I have chosen to call the truth phobia by the current leadership of the country. And that even more worrisome is the reality of the monstrosity of what opposition views are having to contend with the present administration in Nigeria. And I made allusion to the revelations by Senator Abba on his visit to Akpabio and the information passed to him by Akpabio that 5 senators were going. And in truth, 5 senators had their elections truncated by the judiciary. If the institutions of state can be so used by these people who are occupying positions of authority, is it not giving credence to the fears expressed by the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, that the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary are abusing their office, their privileges, and their powers?
You are very much in order. Your position cannot be faulted. The truth of the matter is that, as I said, this is not a democratic dispensation. The truth phobia is, that description is very apt. You have a system where those who dare to say the truth are targeted, and that also explains the embarrassing silence on the Natasha matter by even our colleagues. You would have noticed that even the so-called opposition lawmakers, senators, many of them supported it because they all know that if you don't play along, you are going to be sidelined. Okay? You are not going to have the benefit of either chairing or being part of what they perceive as juicy committees. You may be deprived of certain privileges. So some of them don't have that. Most of these people don't have principles. And therefore, their interest comes first. And knowing the kind of system that we have, if you come out to take a principal position, there's always a price to pay. That is why even the opposition lawmakers could not stand up to defend her. That is also why we have not really seen any serious opposition or any genuine opposition against this government in the National Assembly. Everybody is just singing on your mandate, we shall stand. And that has been the trend. Now, the current administration has not hidden its aversion to criticism. That is why you see protesters being prosecuted for treason. People are now being arrested. Even minors were taken to court for treason. We are seeing the abuse of the Cyber Crimes Act, where people will be arrested indiscriminately for speaking against the police, for abusing politicians in what is supposed to be a constitutional democracy. So our country is really going down. Our democratic process is going through a very vicious attack by those who are supposed to uphold the tenets of democracy. And this is very unfortunate. This is really, really sad. All organs of government are now susceptible to the whims of the enemies of democracy. Even the judiciary is not spared. We now have some decisions coming from our court that Nigerians cannot relate with, Nigerians cannot understand. Okay, and you look at even the National Assembly, they are always ready to approve whatever the president wants. Check and balances is no more there. You cannot tell me the last time that the National Assembly really stood up to hold this government accountable. So everywhere you turn to, Nigeria is being gradually turned into a one-party state. The opposition parties are being polarized. We are seeing elements of sabotage, from the Labour Party to the PDP to NNPP, all the opposition parties that have representation in the National Assembly. You see crises taking place in those parties. Everybody is affected to the APC. Even though the country, things are becoming harder, Nigerians can hardly feed. The economy is bad. Electricity is barely affordable. You know, the cost of data, all the price of everything has skyrocketed. And yet, we are all witnessing the deafening silence, you know, in the governance of the country by people that are supposed to be talking. So this worries me, and this should worry every Nigerian, that where are we really headed as a country? As I speak to you, the president has headed to France. The vice president, I think, has left for Senegal. And nobody is really telling us what Tinubu is going to France. This is not a democracy. You cannot have a president leave a country for 2 weeks based on, a very vague excuse that is going on a working visit. What is he going to do in France for 2 weeks? And he has been going to France. If he's going for medical treatment, they don't want to tell us. If he's going for official assignment, what specific official assignment requires his attendance to be out of the country for 2 weeks? And this cycle of impunity keeps reoccurring. But of course, some of us can also be
Yes. Let me play the devil's advocate so that you can also have something to say about this. The presidency came out and told us that the working visit they talked about is Tinubu going to France to assess the performance of his administration for the last 2 weeks and to prepare for his second anniversary.
Well, if that is what they said, it is really laughable. I wouldn't want my reading of the working visit. You know, it's not WOR, it's WAL. So if he wants to walk, he can walk from Abuja to Oshobo, he can walk to Zamfara on his legs. But if they are saying that he's going there for the official function, then they are serious people. Why does the president need to go to France to be able to have the mental capacity to examine? What does he need to review about his administration? I mean, these people just take us for granted. This visit, we all know, has nothing to do with governance. He's going there either for his private business or medical reasons, but it's certainly not for official purpose that will demand him being out of the country for two weeks. So when is the French President Macron coming to Nigeria for his own working visit? When is the Prime Minister of Britain coming to Nigeria? When is even the President of Ghana coming to Nigeria for working visits? Even the President of the countries that are war-torn, Sudan, Congo, and so on, when are they coming to Nigeria for working visits? What is it about Nigerian presidents and working visits abroad? It is just a cycle of lunacy. And that is because they believe Nigerians will not do anything. They believe nothing will happen, that you have a president leave his country for 2 weeks, and he needs to stay in Paris before he can think, before he can realize how bad the country is, for him to be able to reflect about, what the disaster that the last 1 year of his administration has been. They are just taking us for granted, and it is really saddening.
Okay, let's go to Prof now. Prof, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Barrister Inibehe if he doesn't think that after almost 2 years of hard work, the president does not deserve to go and rest for 2 weeks in Paris.
Well, hard work of destroying the country. After 1 week, 1 year of bringing the economy to its knees, after 1 year of impunity, after 1 year of raising prices of basic goods and services in the country, after 1 year of nepotism, I don't know what he's resting from. If for this 1 week, for these 2 weeks, he's going to be away from the country, the price of fuel will stabilize a bit, the price of data will come down, electricity will be more affordable, workers will have cause to smile. Who knows? Maybe it is good for the country. But as I said, most Nigerians are indifferent, because when Tinubu is in Nigeria and when he's outside Nigeria, people don't see the difference. There is just that sense of absence. It's as if the president is permanently on vacation, because whether he's here or not, Nigerians don't feel the difference. You recall during Buhari's regime, there was a time that he left and handed over to Osibanjo, and for the 1 or 2 weeks that Osibanjo was in charge as acting president, people could see some symbolic movement of governance, some elements of empathy. So this one, you have the president leaving, the vice president, who is now official, has been made an official leader of delegation on condolence messages for the federal government. Because that is what Shetima has been doing. If somebody dies in Borno, he will go and sympathize on behalf of the president. They have made him an entourage on condolence message. And he has not been able to, we have not seen any indication that he's really doing anything in the villa. So if they will torment us less for these 2 weeks, maybe it is even good for the country.
Right.
But as I said, we are not going to see any difference whether Tinubu is in Nigeria or not.
Right. Anybody, just to, okay. Prof. Go ahead, Prof.
That you have not appreciated this president enough. If you recall, during the campaign period, virtually all the candidates, the major candidates, agreed that they were going to remove subsidy. And one of the greatest achievements of this president is that he's the most courageous of them all. He is able to inflict these major policies without batting an eye. Yet, you are saying the president does not deserve some rest. I don't agree with you. I would like to say that those major policies have yielded very positive results. If you look at what has been coming from the central bank, they said the reserves have now move on to, is it $41 billion? Everything seems to be looking up. And the president has also been doing a lot of appointments to see what has happened with the NNPC, the new appointments and all of that. The Naira for crude oil to Dangote refinery that the president himself brokered. It seems that the president has capacity to intervene in major issues, and perhaps he wants to return from France before unveiling, the magical or the very important activities that is currently going on in France. Aren't you a little bit impatient, or don't you think that this is the most courageous president that we have had so far, or that democratic rule?
Well, his courage has only brought us pain and agony. They said they have removed the price, they have removed subsidy, which is a lie. Official figures have shown that they are still paying billions in subsidy. And even the partial removal that they have done, what have they done with the money? Where have they invested the money that they have made? The governors that have taken more revenue allocation, can they account for it? Even the federal government, what have they done with the money? Tell us the sector that the money is being invested in. Okay, there is no country on earth, there is no civilized country on earth that does not have one form of social intervention by government or not. In Nigeria, we only cite these developed countries, our politicians are good at citing these countries when bad things happen there. Whether you are looking at UK, you are looking at America, you are looking at Canada or France, they have subsidies on many things. They have subsidies. They have benefits that their citizens are entitled to, including unemployment benefits. What does Nigeria really do for Nigeria? If subsidy was the only thing, ordinary person. And sorry, what is it in France? What is the thing in Paris that he has to go? Why can't he go to Medugri for vacation? Why can't he go to Oshobo or to Yo? What is it in Paris that he needs to go to Paris with taxpayers' money before he can? And who told him that the presidency affords him an opportunity to rest? He said he had the energy and the strength to govern for 4 years, and yet, since he became president, he has been traveling to France. We all know what this is about.
Right.
Sorry. Before we leave this issue, my next question will be directed to my noble professor, because he appears to be playing the devil's advocate now. So let me ask him.
But the facts are there, barrister. The facts are there. What you said is fact. There's been a spike in the.
Why don't you wait and let me make my submission?
Right.
Okay. About the 40 billion that the Prof is talking about as our reserve. What is the relationship of that figure with the debt profile of Nigeria that currently stands at 187 trillion?
You know that when you have a reserve like that, it's like a backup.
A buffer.
Bank, they say something, a buffer about a collateral. It sort of gives you some kind of basis for for creditors to give you additional loan. Because if you don't have reserve, the chances are that they won't consider your economy strong enough to be able to absorb whatever kind of loan you are asking for. So, in a sense, the reserves are very important, and they also help to.
What you are saying, in essence, that we are at liberty to continue taking loans, especially with the one that is just coming up again from the World Bank, because we have a reserve of, say, 40 billion.
And you also know that this government is a very benign government. The loan from the World Bank, which is very interesting, is also directed at humanitarian goals, such as cash transfer. So the money just vanishes into thin air. And, perhaps the target poor people do get something eventually. Otherwise, these are loans that you can't point to any fiscal things to say, oh, this is what we have used it for. So it's a very good kind of loan that gives leverage to politicians to be able to engage their constituencies and give them some palliative. Don't you think that's very essential at the moment?
Right. Okay. So let me go to INT'L, still within this conversation, and the points made by Prof is what some people have also expressed about the need to be reform-minded to recalibrate the country. In fact, the government argues that the president has been able to take some steps to sort of reset the country from what was into what it should be. For instance, they make reference to what was obtainable during the last administration, where the government kept borrowing to defend the naira, and people were profiting off that policy. Doing all kinds of, there's a term for it now, I cannot remember, where they get FX and they hoard it and then they sell it off at the end of the day. I think it's arbitrage. So they were making money off that. So the current government had to sort of float the naira to reduce that problem at that time. They say that is yielding result. They also make reference to local government autonomy, that right now we're seeing state governors conducting election, although the process of the election has been questioned, but we're seeing all of them, because before now we can see caretaker committee chairman stay in one state for about 7-6 years and still be accessing allocation. But what is obtainable now is that if you don't conduct election, you can have access to allocation. This local government are getting more money now, which means that the money should trickle down to those at the grassroots level. So in this case, primary healthcare centers, primary school education, some of these things are under the purview of the state and local government. So they say we should look towards that direction now, hold them more accountable, because government has done that. And then there's the question of the Electricity Act as well, which empowers states to generate and distribute their own electricity, sort of decentralizing the electricity sector. We've seen some states also taking the powers from the NERC to regulate the electricity sector in their respective domain. There's also the tax reform bill, which of course they say is going to reform our tax system, which has been there since even the colonial times. I think I followed Taiwo Yedele throughout the assignment of his committee. There's also that the what's it called now? The FX reserve that Prof mentioned as well. So they say these policies need some kind of courage to be able to pull it through, and eventually it will be yielding results gradually. So I want you to speak to those issues I raised. Inibe.
Well, let me start with the local government autonomy. Contrary to what you have said, the federal government has not complied with the judgment of the Supreme Court. As I speak to you, local governments are not receiving direct allocation. The governors have conspired with the president to sabotage the judgment of the Supreme Court. It was the same federal government through the AGF, the Attorney General of the Federation, that went to the Supreme Court to have a pronouncement on direct allocation. However, governors sort of, I don't know whether to say rebel, but they took a position against the enforcement of that judgment. And the president seems to have given them, a leeway out of it. So what you say is not really correct. Local governments in Nigeria are not getting direct allocation. That has not been done. And then on the issue of local government election, well, you have rightly said, the whole thing is just, laughable. There is no state that really has democratic local government elections. We all know that. Governors simply give names to the state INEC, and they announce the members of the ruling party. That is why in a state that APC is in charge, all the councillors and chairmen are APC. The same for PDP states. So the truth is that we are just deceiving ourselves as a country. Now, regarding the economic policies of the government, well, you've made those points, but the question at the end of the day is, what is the man on the street feeling? It is not enough to talk about the Electricity Act, the tax reform bill, and so on and so forth, removal of subsidy. Does it trickle down? How is the man on the street? How is the trader in the market? How is the civil servant, the students, the working class people? How are they? What is the impact that this has had? The impact that Nigerians are seeing is impoverishment. Impoverishment. People can barely afford food to eat now. Things are really bad in the country. So there's something called policy intelligence. If you want to carry out major policy reform, it is only necessary that you think through the impact that policy will have and take steps to ameliorate it, or take steps to implement it in a way that it is humane, and even be sure that the policy is in the best interest of the country. Even floating of the naira, we are not sure how this will end, whether this will actually be, how this will end, because they say, oh, we are not patient, you should have that, you should be patient and all that. What is the end goal at the end of the day, after they have floated the naira? Okay, what is the end goal? Do we now have a better, purchasing power because the naira has been floated? Nigerians are seeing these policies are having negative impact on the citizens. Even if the government's policies were well-intentioned, I don't necessarily agree that they are. But assuming they are well-intentioned, the reality is that we are feeling the harsh effect of the policies. And then you look at even the lifestyle of the president. You are introducing policies, austerity policies, and then the government is still very wasteful. It's still very wasteful. A president that is interested in reforming the economy, a president that is interested in saving money, will not be flying to Paris for 2 weeks to go and reflect on his failures. I mean, you have not delivered to anything significant to Nigerians in the last 1 year, and you still need 1-2 weeks to reflect on how bad the country is. Do you know the amount that the country will lose for that 2 weeks? So these are not, things that we can simply brush aside or just pretend that, oh, all is well. All is not well. Things are really bad in Nigeria. I don't know whether you are aware. Things are really, really bad. People are suffering. People are going through a lot.
Let me make reference to what Prof said earlier. He talked about the fact that the top three candidates all spoke about practically the same thing, and people have even identified similarities, in their various policies. That it looks like all of them had a consensus, in terms of the status of subsidy payment, in terms of what the Buhari administration was doing by borrowing to defend Naira. Some people were profiting out of it. That they needed to sort of take a decision regarding that we could not continue on that trajectory. It would have been a disaster. Does that speak to the necessity, behind these reforms? Yes.
No, why I will never buy that position, support that argument is that you are not going to address the money the country is using to subsidize petrol without addressing the corruption in the subsidy. The same thing Buhari did. Buhari was complaining, oh, subsidy. But at the end of the day, NNPC is as corrupt as it has ever been. Nothing significant has changed. You are not addressing the corruption. You are not addressing the inflated subsidy claims. You are not going after those who are stealing our oil. And then all you are talking about is removal of subsidy. The reason why they don't want to address the real problem, the big masquerade, is because most of them in government are profiting from the rot. If you investigate NNPC today, Nigerians will not even have reason to talk about subsidy removal, because you would have realized that most of the monies they claim they are paying for subsidy are being siphoned by people in government and in NNPC. But that is not their interest. They are avoiding the real issue. The real issue is corruption. That is the real issue. There's a consensus in our country that NNPC is very, very corrupt. So how come that Tinubu is not interested in looking at that? Have you bothered to ask? Why has the president not taken any serious steps to audit the NNPC? If he's truly honest, if the president is honest about the issue of subsidy, he should have started it by investigating and auditing NNPC. Then Nigerians will want to listen to whatever he has to say. But insofar he has not done that, his position for some of us is simply untenable.
All right, let me go to Barrister now. Barrister?
Yes, thank you very much. Now, in Ibehe, there is another issue that I would want you to touch because it is one that directly affects the lives of the people. And that is the issue of the Naira for crude that came to a close on the 31st of March 2025. What is the position? And is government handling this issue appropriately? Because rather than a descent, we find that the prices of PMS is ascending to the chagrin of majority of Nigerians.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if I heard the question clearly, but I know you said something about Naira food.
Barrister, could you relay the question again?
Yes. Anyway, I read that the agreement for Naira for crude for Dangote refinery, amongst other refineries, came to a close on the 31st of December. And the effect of that has been an upward review of the pump price of fuel to the chagrin of many Nigerians. What is your position on this new so-called disagreement between NNPC and particularly the Dangote refinery?
Well, for me, all these things happen because the people in government do not care about Nigerians. Most of these policies are not done. Most of these decisions we see, they are not taken with the interests of the citizens of Nigerians at heart. Many times there are a lot of things that happen, off record in government that determines the things that we get to hear. So when you read about this agreement between Dangote and the federal government or NNPC, then there are underlying, considerations that both parties may not want to speak publicly about. But the end result is that Nigerians are the ones suffering. Nigerians are the ones paying the price for it. So I just simply marvel at a level of tolerance as a country. There seems to be no breaking point for Nigerians, and I hope that I'm wrong, because if I am wrong, none of us can predict what is going to happen in the future. That a day can come that people will say, "Oh, look, we have just simply had it enough." The whole decision about subsidy removal, and to see that this president didn't really bother about Nigerians and how this will impact on it.
Anybody? Oh, it appears we've lost connection with him. Right. Okay. So, is the podium? All right. Okay. Yeah, I think we lost connection with you. Hello, anybody?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, I think we lost connection at the point where you said Nigerians should have a breaking point, something like that. That was when the line went off.
Well, I'm just saying that politicians are taking us for granted, and that I hope I'm wrong, because it looks like Nigerians have an unlimited level of tolerance. I hope that I'm wrong, because if I am wrong, and a day comes that people say they have had it enough, then nobody will be able to predict what will happen, because all these decisions are taken without consideration, without care for the common man. When Tinubu announced subsidy gone, that was a premature, and you saw the impact it had immediately. Marketers who had already collected money for subsidy started hoarding fuel. The price of fuel immediately went up. He did not even get into office to think about how to address the immediate impact that decision was going to have. So this is just recklessness, and that is what we have been seeing day after day in government. Our politicians are just simply reckless and disinterested in the welfare of the common people.
Right, Prof.
Yes, last month I think the chief of army staff and the minister talked about setting up a special elite squad. We need 2,400 men from the tri-services. And 800 of them have already been trained to begin to deal with the issues of terrorism and other insecurity problems. Don't you think that is part of the innovative intervention that we're talking about, that this government is introducing to address the problem of security in Nigeria?
Well, for some of us, we are not really so bothered about what government is saying. What we are bothered about is the impact. I believe you would have read the report of the killing in Bokos, the killing that is taking place in Uromi, the killings that have taken place in the last 1 week across the country. Where dozens of our countrymen have been slaughtered.
Right. Hello, anybody? Can you hear me?
Of Nigeria.
Okay.
So,
can you hear me? Oh, we lost connection with him again. We'll try and reconnect it with him to continue his line of thought. Remember, we're live on Facebook, 32FM 949 Fenye. You can also call us 0705 5000 949, 0829 7000 949, 1906 2000 949. In a couple of minutes, we'll be hearing from our crew in Oyo Town. They're live at the coronation of Oba Akim Owade, the new Alafin of Oyo, the 46th Alafin of Oyo's coronation is taking place Saturday today at the Olivet Baptist High School, Oyo, where the governor Seyi Makinde is expected to lead a host of dignitaries, including notable Nigerians, at that coronation event. We'll be joining them just for a few minutes to give us update from there. But Prof, now that Inibe has gone off. He was talking about the killings, especially the horrible incident that took place in those states, the kind of issues it has thrown up. We've seen people interpret it from an ethnic and tribal angle. Prof.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that has happened. And what is even more unfortunate was the reaction on social media by some young men in the North threatening revenge and so on and so forth. It seems that Nigerians are very quick on turning on each other when there are misunderstandings or there are major problems like this one in Uromi. Rather than thinking about a very careful explanation of what has happened, they are quick to want to shed blood. We have had Barrister Inibe talking about the hardship that Nigerians have been going through. You would have thought that they would channel their energies to challenge the government or those who exercise political power, who have failed to provide security and so on. Instead, they are channeling their energy against fellow citizens who are victims of the poor performance, whether in security and other service delivery areas in the country. I think it's very clear that we do not understand governance and we do not see each other as fellow citizens. I think that it only plays into the hands of those who govern us to continue to do whatever they are doing.
And Prof, what's your assessment of how the governors handled this? I know you traveled to was it Kano State on a visit, taking a diplomatic move. Yes, that has also been interpreted from different angles as well. What's your assessment of his efforts so far since that incident took place?
Well, any measure to promote issue. Has it removed people from the forest in Uromi? Is it likely to reduce the incidence of kidnapping? Will it reduce the suspicion and discomfort that inform the killing of those people in the first place? I think that these are just elite moves, to encourage themselves to ensure that peace reigns while they continue with non-performance. Yes, he has gone. But what about the core issues on the ground? What has he done to address them? For instance, what guarantee does he have that if another set of a truck passes through Uromi and people are afraid that they may be harboring criminals who are going to be responsible for another round of kidnapping and killings, that they will not descend on them the same way? I mean, just like you have in some cities, people perpetrate jungle justice on criminals by going to neighborhood and appealing to them, to stop all of those things. How has this solved the problem? I think that the concrete thing required is for them to see the security lapses, the inadequacies of the arrangements for security in those places that have not worked, which has led to those grave suspicion and fear. Because those actions were the actions of people who are confident, who think that they are in charge of their security. The real thing is that they saw them and then they panicked. And then they descended on them without regard to due process. I think that it requires a very thorough investigation to ensure that it does not happen again. And the security lapses that has led to it itself has to be addressed. Remember that this issue has been on the ground for a very long time. And we have had cases of people taking the law into their hands. Is it by going to Kano because you want to avoid a threat, or because you want to cement political relations? I think this thing has to do with performance. It has to do with security arrangement. It has to do with the workings of the security architecture.
Right.
These things have to be rethought in fundamental ways.
Right.
And if you don't do it, you're only shifting the problem.
Right.
I can assure you that if it does not happen in Uromi, it will happen in another state.
Right.
Because is it because it's so-called Fulanis that were killed? What about the series of killings that have been going on in the Middle Belt, in the North Central Zone, when we see all the dead bodies on social media every now and then?
Yes, please hold that thought, Prof. We need to take a commercial break. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation. Remember, we're live on Facebook through to FM 949 Fenye. Drop your comment. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.
You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
Tifa bá wọlé tọ́ ní fàáfàá làájìfà. 32 FM, the happiness station, is ready to spread happiness again. Yes, ke? Then don't reach for us to make our listeners smile again. Oh, are you ready? Ṣé ti dúró dédé? Àwùfù bẹ̀rẹ̀kẹ̀tẹ̀ don land like traffic light. If true, data is life. Now if you say recharge card go come with you. If your finger is fast and you are feeling lucky on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, then keep your dial locked on 32 FM 949 Fẹ̀yẹ́. Nítorí òjò recharge card yóò máa rọ̀ ní gbogbo ọjọ́ Ìṣẹ́gun, Ọjọ́rú àti Ọjọ́bọ̀. Ìyẹn ò ní pé every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, time go reach you. Àwùfù bẹ̀rẹ̀kẹ̀tẹ̀ go dey ṣẹlẹ̀ on top 32 FM 94.9 by 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m. Congo reach 7 p.m. Lẹ́yìn tó túmọ̀ sí pé láago mẹ́jọ òwúrọ̀, aago mọ́kànlá àárọ̀, aago kan ọ̀sán, aago márùn-ún àti aago méje àṣálẹ́. If it be red network, if it be green network, it still fit be yellow network. Any which way na way, your own na to stay alert and stay active on 32 FM. Ló bá tán, mọ́ gọ́ọ̀kì ẹ̀ la fàwọ́dá.
Ṣé wọn láì fi ní junior? Èmi tí mo phenomenal gangan. Mo dúró mi ẹ ṣeun. One time.
Anybody with like group could tell you there is nothing like live music. Lago, the weekend starter. Lago, the Tungba Chamber. Lago, ètò kan àrà ọ̀tọ̀ tó balẹ̀ bàgẹ́ sórí ìkànnì afẹ́ nígbà gbogbo àgbáyé. 32 FM. Láti aago mẹ́jọ sí mẹ́sàn-án àbọ̀ lálálẹ́ Friday. Ẹ pàdé àwọn live band tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ràn lórí Lago pẹ̀lú atọ́kùn ètò àfùdábàbà àgbàlagbà. God on radio. You know what? Lago is specially made for you because only send the message kan máa kí ẹ kó o máa gbọ́ níbikíbi tó o bá wà. Lago. Ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ mí ìsẹ̀.
32 FM 94.9.
Ẹ̀yin fans mi.
It's okay.
Ẹ lọ sórí gbogbo ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ ní 32 FM 949 Fẹ̀yẹ́
Asafu. It's okay.
32 FM News. First, we're telling real stories.
We air stories from the perspectives of the people. Stories that our people can relate with.
In news delivery, we are fast, objective, and accurate.
We're all about changing the narratives by telling underreported stories and bringing those behind the news to your doorsteps.
At 12 noon and 4 p.m., we will continue to bring you comprehensive and factual news at home and across our various social platforms.
The stories you need to keep up with, from community news to sports, business, politics, and a lot more.
32 FM News, first with telling real stories.
Feel better about your life.
32 FM 94.9, the antidote to depression.
Welcome back. The Podium on 32 FM 94.9. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation by calling 0705 5949 or 829 7949. You can also call 0906 2949. You can also reach out to us on Facebook by dropping your comment through to FM 949 Fenye. Unfortunately, Inibe is not with us. We're trying to reconnect with him. But Prof, before we went on the break, you were talking about the need to look beyond the visit of the governor to Kano State after that incident in Uromi. Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think it's important for us to look beyond it and then deal with, and also recognize the fact that the Uromi is not a peculiar incident. So it's not like something that happens really. It's something that has happened in other parts of the country, and we must put them in that context. So taking it as if it's a unique kind of incident, therefore we must, deal with it separately, will not work. We need to look at the security situation comprehensively and see how we can address those problems. And I think we also need to spread the word around that we as citizens must not look at each other as enemies, or Nigeria is divided into North and South, or one ethnic group rather than the other. I think it's important, or Muslims and Christians, as we have seen some of those people try to paint it. Rather, these are concrete existential issues. People frightened that they will get killed or kidnapped, and they reacted, out of fear or panic or out of trepidation that they are before imminent danger, and they took the law into their hands. We have seen this happen before. We have seen people killed. So let us not treat it as if it's something unique that has happened in that place, because some northern youth are defending it in that way on social media and are threatening to kill and maim Christians and Southerners in the north. That should not be tolerated. It should not be accepted conduct. And some people have also raised their voices that if we can pick people who are suspected to have been involved in that incident, we must also pick people who are spreading hatred and are using that opportunity, to threaten other Nigerians. I don't think that there's any law that also says that if somebody is dealt with extrajudicially, people have a right to also rise up and also do the same thing in whatever safe havens or areas that they think that they reside in, and begin to threaten other citizens of the same country. I think it is part of the failures that have not been addressed, that those people who have made those things openly on social media have also not been picked up. People have also referred to similar killings in the north over religious disagreements and things like that. I think Nigerians must let their government know that it is not a problem of one part of Nigeria against another part of Nigeria. It is a basic security problem. It is a failure of government that has led to this issue, and that failure must be addressed carefully, systematically, and confidently.
Right. Okay, let me go to Facebook now. Boluatefe Ademijun says, when will the Natasha case be resolved finally? The country is grappling with economic crisis, numerous crises, including insecurity and the struggling economy, which demands urgent attention. I believe it's essential to focus efforts on lasting solution to these pressing issues rather than dwelling on matters that don't concern everyone. Okay? Kedron Batunde says, we are spending naira in this country. Why is it difficult to sell to Dangote, especially for local consumption in naira? Are they selling to Dangote at a reduced price or dollar equivalent in naira? It says there are rules and regulation governing every sector. How are those in charge circumventing these regulations to defraud the system or the economy? The government must manage the economic crisis very well, such that it will not degenerate into a religious or ethnic crisis. Thank you very much. You drop your comments through to FM 949 for your call 075 5949 or 829 7949 906 2949. Okay, and don't forget to also drop your comment through FM 949 Fenye. Okay, so a barrister, we're making a point earlier about, I think I was asking before he left us about the recall process in the Constitution, and I'm also thinking from the side of the party supremacy or party loyalty of these lawmakers, because if you contested under the platform of a political party, you're expected to be answerable to the party and also your representative as well. But it looks like these political parties have not been able to rein in on their representative in terms of so you hear the leader of the political party like Atiku Abubakar, for instance, talking about they need to stand up against injustice and for lawmakers to speak out against the state of emergency. But members of his own party who got elected under the PDP voted, whether or not it was voice votes, but they could have made a statement by maybe staging a walkout or something. But they sat there while the National Assembly approved the proclamation of the president. So does this show the extent to which some of these political parties and their leaders cannot, have a unifying front or raining on their members who got elected on their platform to be the voice of their political party and show a kind of opposition to the exercise of the ruling party in the National Assembly? Barrister.
Yes. Thank you very much. But I would crave your indulgence to make one or two submissions before I go into the question you have asked.
All right, go ahead.
And the first one.
Barrister, I said go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Oh, okay. We have a call. Let's take this one. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, so Barrister, go ahead. Yes, I can hear you now, Barrister. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first one actually that Nigerians should not direct their anger to themselves, but rather to those in authority. That appears contradictory to me, especially given his earlier submissions that the government was not doing badly. So what?
Oh, please hold that thought, Barrister. Let me take this. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
This is Steve from Mania.
Okay, please move away from your radio, sir. Move away from your radio, sir. Move away from your radio.
I want to ask the barrister to help me with this question. Can Fubara take the federal government to court to overrule that state of emergency? Is that constitutional? Because I felt Fubara should have retained that position by fighting, even if he's going to lose his life. I don't really understand the power the president has on his stage. Now the president is frolicking around. Can the president be impeached too for not doing his work on security? Can a state of emergency be pronounced on federal government to impeach Tinubu?
Right. Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm not a learned person like Barrister, but I also know that, like a recall process, impeachment process is also a very, very complicated one, in Nigeria and other presidential systems that we have. Because, in the United States, for instance, if you're impeached in the House of Rep, you need to also be, impeached in the Senate for that, or convicted by the Senate Judiciary Committee for that impeachment to go through. If you remember, Trump was impeached twice by the House of Rep, but he didn't leave office eventually. So it's a very complicated process. Barrister.
Yes. Thank you very much. Now, the second one is about the visit of the Edo State governor to Kano. In my view, that was very, very hasty for a matter that is still sub judice, because he appears to have gone to Kano to admit that the situation is as the North sees it. And that is very, very worrisome. The DSS has waded into the matter. The evidence is already before them. I would have preferred a situation where he made a proclamation for peace and that people should allow the instrumentalities of state to work so that we get to the bottom of this. Hunters found with that huge amount of money and the weapons that were said to have found on them is a matter that really needs to be thoroughly investigated. That is not to say that self-help or jungle justice is the best way to address it. Now, on the question you asked, I think Inibehe already answered that question. What we have in this country has no definition in the books because this is not democracy. Somebody wakes up and decides to jump ship and wants to retain his seat. You can see all the troubles we are seeing with the political parties. If a political party has come out and is accusing the ruling party of trying to disorganize its party, then you want to ask yourself whether they indeed have a party, you know? So there are so many things that are happening here that are not in the books, that do not define democracy, that do not define the system of government we appear to be showing to the world that we are practicing. A lot of things are wrong. You look at what is happening. The president came out with a state of emergency. The provisions on the state of emergency are very clear. If he had gone by that, we would not be in the mess we are in. It was beyond him to have mentioned suspension of governor or suspension of the House of Assembly. If he had left that to those who would now sit down and start considering the implications of a state of emergency, it would have been better. And of course, what is the necessary implication of a state of emergency? We would arrive at that answer, but it will not have come from the president. Again, look at the legislature. Look at what they are doing. Look at the case of Natasha. Look at the way they are handling it. There is a very serious matter that is on the airways. That the man who was appointed as the chairman of the ethics committee is himself one of the most immoral Nigerians. And nobody is saying anything about that. Somebody who has been indicted of having committed a crime. Somebody who the Constitution says, under normal circumstances, should never see a position of authority in the country. He is there. And worse still, heading the ethics committee. They are not looking at that. They are looking at Natasha and what one man and one woman did in the bedroom. Look at what happened with our recall process. We have found evidence of the governor of the state masterminding the so-called recall, and they did it in such an illegal way, and DSS is not interested. You can see all that is happening in this country. So, is this democracy? They told us that to get the so-called state of emergency, legislators were bribed. So, do you want the boys from SDP and the ones from Labour Party to lose out on that cash cow? They said some were paid between $5,000 and $10,000. And when the National Assembly came to defend themselves, God, what kind of a country is this? They said it was intended as their Salah
Salah
what
gift.
do you want to call it? No, is it Salah gift or a Salah prayer for their email addresses? My brother, Nigeria is in the mess.
Right. Let me go to Prof. I mean, Prof, the question of the legislative arm of government is always a subject of national discourse, from issues of obtaining bogus salary, dancing to the tune of the ruling party, regardless of the strength that you have. So it has led to a lot of questions about whether or not maybe a parliamentary system is best suited for something like this, wherein party supremacy can be achieved more than in a presidential system, especially like ours. So I want you to speak to to that issue in terms of ensuring that those who are elected on the platform of a political party actually do the bidding of that political party when they get into office. I want you to speak to that issue: party loyalty, party supremacy within the parliament, because it looks like it's not there. I mean, at the moment when the emergency vote was done, for instance, Atiku and even Malam El-Rufai they were in a press conference. Meanwhile, Bello El-Rufai was there in the House of Rep, also shouting to the ayes have it, to the emergency vote in the National Assembly.
Well, there are two versions of the emergency vote in National Assembly. There are those who think that the nays actually have had it, but the government went down saying the ayes have it. That's one version. Then the other issue is really this.
Sorry, Prof. Sorry to come in here. So if that were the case, I mean, couldn't they have? Because we've seen lawmakers act in different ways in this country. We've seen some of them scale fence during the Tambowal and the Bajabia Miller situation some years ago. We've seen how lawmakers have staged a walkout. So there's a way you can also make a statement to show that you're opposed to this.
Let me tell you, that's actually where I'm going.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Remember that even when PDP controlled critical majority in the National Assembly under Obasanjo, when Gali Narba was Speaker, it wasn't as if it's a single party that dominated the National Assembly, because they had leaders, they have individuals who went into Parliament conscious of the role of Parliament and the principles that underline the relationship between the Parliament and the presidency. That's the first point I'm making. The second point is really that we have practiced parliamentary system in the First Republic. We didn't have it that easy in terms of political parties. Remember also that originally Akintola was in the same political party with Awolowo before this happened. So the whole question of party supremacy, party loyalty, if the worst that will happen is that there will be a schism if you run a parliamentary system and you want to enforce your party. The bottom line, and I think Barrister, not Ogunlola, the other barrister that just left, made the point very clear. You have parliamentarians, you have politicians who are not Democrats. You have lawless politicians, you have lawless members of parliament. And the journalists have always told us about legislative looting and lawlessness within the parliament. That is the problem that we have. It's people without character, politics without principle. That cannot be replaced by parliamentary or presidential system. Systems assumes that people have character, that people believe in democracy, that people will uphold the rule of law. That's why even when they think that they will not, they make them swear oaths. That's why we swear them in. They swear, okay, they will protect the constitution. They will do this, they will do that. So parliamentary system did not say don't do that. Presidential system also did not say don't do that. So if you have people who have no regard for law, who have no care for the fate of ordinary citizens, who are just there for personal aggrandizement, to feather their nest, to even boast in the presence of citizens that I can make you disappear. How can you have a parliament that is really a parliament? How do you have a democracy that is really a democracy? Let's not deceive ourselves. The real issue is not about the system. It's about those who operate the system. What do they want? What do they do? What vision do they have of their society? These guys don't have any vision. They are just satisfied with raw power. And unfortunately, the semblance of the elections give them the impression that what they have is not raw power, there is some kind of authority. But what we see is that they have abused every privilege that they have had in government as much as possible. And anybody who does not fall in line will be victimized and dealt with. You see, this kind of behavior happens not only in the organization like Parliament, they happen even in offices and organizations. And if you don't have people or have a means of ensuring that crazy people like this don't occupy those positions, then you are in. First of all, look at the nomination process. Was Opabio really supposed to be a candidate for the Senate? He got away with lawlessness. So what do you expect him to do as Senate president? He simply went into the Senate, wore the cap of the president. So how do you think that the expected accountability, checks and balances will happen? Look, let us not fool ourselves. Sometimes you don't want to be too pessimistic about some of these things. But you see, we have allowed them to go get away with all these things for too long. And if we don't look for ways and means of addressing these things at the citizen level, and that's why it's very important when I was talking about citizen to citizen perception of each other.
Yeah.
If we continue to look at each other as if we are not common citizens, if we continue to think about, there are those who are indigenous to the north, there are those who are indigenous to Kogi State, where we don't have citizens of Kogi State, citizens of Oyo State, who are just citizens, who can hold people to account on the basis of performance of government, we will not be able to address this problem. And they also support such initiatives like those young men in social media in the north who are promising fire and brimstone against Christians and Southerners. That's the kind of things that elite people like. So, in fact, what Okpebholo has done is to simply take the opportunity of the crisis in Uromi to go and cement his relationship with some fellow politicians in the north, at the expense of the people who are facing clear and present security problems. That's why they are not going to investigate. They are not going to get to the root of the matter and address it.
But maybe he was doing it to douse any tension over possible reprisal. Maybe that's why, douse any tension over possible reprisal attacks in that area.
And that means he should go and admit to a wrong that has not been established.
All right, okay.
A situation that is yet to be investigated. I think it does he have to go to how many times has any governor, even Buhari, all declared by autumn in Benue State? What happened? Where he was even declared persona non grata in Aso Rock. Look, we can't continue to have first and second class citizens in Nigeria. Once you have it at the state level, you will have it at the national level. Right. That's the process of the matter. We have two sets of citizens, but we are not subject to common law. We have different kind of laws operating across the country. Even we have laws even within a state, apart from the indigenous and non, you also have laws that operate between the wealthy and the poor. So we have serious problems of inequality, of multiple citizenship in this country. We need to have a common sense of citizenship. Right. We need to have a common sense of privilege in relation to government. We need to have a common sense of duty to government and to ourselves, to each other as citizens, as fellow citizens. Just as we are sympathizing with the victims of Uromi, there should also be sympathy with victims of what has happened in many parts of the north. And if there is a jungle justice, because jungle justice is underlines all those communal conflicts that you see dead bodies all over the place in many parts of the country. It is also part of self-help and jungle justice. Don't we have a judiciary which is supposed not to take even civil cases to the courts?
My noble prof.
Yeah.
Please permit me.
Yes.
To chip in one or two words. I think the Northerners are teaching us a lesson, because I saw how the elites of the North rose up in support of theirs.
Absolutely.
But they have never risen up like this when allegations of some miscreants operating from the forests are killing innocent people from the south. So I think our southern rulers are being taught a lesson, and they should please learn, and learn it very well. Every time there is such a disturbance where lives are lost in the south, we too should do what the Northerners are doing in the protection of our own people.
Absolutely. We will not be asking, where are the cows?
So, but Barrister, just to be clear, when you say we should do what the Northerners are doing, you're saying that they should speak, in unison. There should be consensus among the southern leaders in condemning what has happened.
Did you see the Lalong and the other woman when they were?
Please hold that thought, Barrister. Please hold that thought. Please hold that thought. Hello. Please move away from your radio. Move away from your radio. Please move away from your radio, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I've been listening. I'm Joseph from Talent.
Right.
What we are saying, it has always been like that. An ordinary, a truck pusher, a malam, in any part of the West, if you take them to police station, police, if you ask them to arrest them, they won't. Call a PhD holder here or a manager, police will treat you like a common criminal, even in the West. So, for the say that they are not, see the Okada people, they take over everywhere, even in Lagos. See the other time, one challenged the governor of Lagos State. You understand me? Can any southerner do that? So this has always been happening. Ordinary malam pushing coach, a truck, in police, you take them to police, you discover they can leave you there. So the police, I believe with the law of the country, is always has reserved number one citizen to them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so Barrister, you're making a point because I wanted you to be clear on what you said about doing what the Northerners are doing as well.
Exactly. You see, it is wrong. If Northerners believe so, it is wrong for Southerners to take a cue from it and hold it as the norm. If a Fulani man is found with a gun, it is generally believed that it is for his self-defense. If somebody from the southeast is found with a gun, he is considered a member of IPOB. If somebody is with a gun in south-south, they will say he is a militant. If somebody is found with a gun in the southwest, they will say he is an armed robber. So what makes the Hausa Fulani different from the other people? That's one. And secondly, concerning what they do in the north, I don't know if you saw this video of Lalong and this opposition woman. I've always loved her, but for this time, I was very, very angry. Holding a press conference and calling all the leadership in the south to take measures to bring all of these people to book. But they have been killing our own people in Gogon. They have been killing them all over the southwest. And you just find your governors are sleeping. And no governor comes from the north to come and commiserate with us here for the crimes committed by their indigenes. But you have our own Okpebolo, jobless, with due respect, gallivanting to the north to go and admit to a crime that has not been established. So that's what I'm saying. We can learn this from them too. Every time a soul drops anywhere in the south, our governors should rise up with a very strong protest, to the north, like they are doing.
Right. Okay. So thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Prof. Yes, Prof.
Okay.
You were making a point very quickly.
To add to what Barrister just said.
Yes.
I think when things like that happen, it is not the time to be talking about Yoruba Nation or Biafra. We should call for justice for those people.
Right. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Barrister. Unfortunately, we lost connection with our guest in Behe in the middle of the conversation, and our crew in Oyo could not join us as I announced earlier. I'm sure that he'll be getting...
He did not wait for us to make him laugh.
Yes, he didn't wait, unfortunately. We also could not hear from our crew in Oyo, but stay tuned to the station. You'll always be getting up-to-date information as events unfold at that coronation ceremony. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Thank you, Barrister and Prof. Thank you to my producer, Gbolabo from Moscow. Join us again next Saturday, 9 a.m. My name is OLORUNTOBA YUSUF. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.